You guys all have hectic schedules, so I really appreciate you taking the time. I promise I'm going to keep you for about an hour. I'll get you out sooner if we can, and then I'll be available after for questions and answers. So if I haven't met you yet, I would love to introduce myself. Let me get to the next screen. It's always fun with technical difficulties. Come on. There I am. Okay. So if I haven't had the chance of meeting you yet, conferences or out there in the industry, this is kind of who I am. My background is not in sales. It is not in software, thank goodness. My background is actually in early childhood education. I got my degree in ECE. I knew I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher, was all set to go about 9 years ago, and then that real cute big kid up there in the left, he showed up. And what I found out is that infant care is really expensive on a kindergarten teacher's salary. So I started kind of poking around, and I actually approached the school that I fell in love with for him, the preschool, and asked if they had any positions available. So believe it or not, they made me a 2-year-old teacher. And I was a 2-year-old teacher for about 2 years. And as you guys very well know, if you have a 2-year-old teacher that stays in her classroom with happy kids, happy parents, you either need to commit her or you need to promote her. So I went from 2-year-old teacher to director like right overnight with like little to no training. I worked with 2 of the major brands, Primrose and Kids Are Kids, if you've heard of them. So they're great brands. I had a lot of good tools at my fingertips. And one of them was childcare CRM. And I'll just tell you, using it, it just kind of made me feel really empathetic to my director friends who were at other brands who didn't have a system like this. Because like most of you, I shared those results. 67% of you guys, and about the same for them, they had this Post-it system or a binder and a clipboard, and they would go to what I lovingly call the binders of death. And so I just my passion shifted, and I thought I need to share with as many people as I can that life can be easier than this, and that what we love, being in the classrooms and dealing with parents and building relationships, that's what we should be doing. We are not salespeople. We are not trained in it. So I kind of shifted, and now I'm lucky enough to work for Childcare CRM and get to meet all of you guys out in the world. So a little bit of background on the rest of our team here. We've got 12 great people, so not a huge company. You're going to get to know us all very well, but most of us have been in the industry. We've got 2 other directors, an assistant director who works for us. Our CEO and founder actually was in the management side of things, so developing systems and selling systems like that. So your core group of support team here has been on the front lines with you. We know what you're dealing with day to day. We, as a system, are the only one focused on the childcare industry. So I promise you right now, if you get on Google and you search the term CRM, which means Customer Relationship Management, you are going to find 19 pages at least of different CRM systems. I have never said we are the only one. However, we are the only one that's specifically tailored to the childcare or education industry. Any system where you've got a parent and child involved, that is our niche. And you can absolutely use one of those other CRMs out there. You might find that they have a lower price point or a higher price point, but they're just not as customized or tailored to you guys, and that's why this makes us different. That term web-based SaaS, that just means if you can get to a .com, you can get to us. So it's not installed on your computer. You don't have to be locked in that office or at that front desk. You can be anywhere. There's an app for it. Unique multi-site organization capabilities. What that means is if you're a center on here that's got more than one location, your directors can kind of be siloed and just worried about the projects in their school, whereas you as the owner, regional, VP, whatever, you can manage all the locations from the top, and you don't have to have 6 different logins. You can have one login and work at all of the schools. This is a little bit outdated. We just brought on center number 1922. We are now in the USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. So it's been a very exciting year for us. The growth has just been phenomenal, and it's kept the solutions manager very busy. Configurable multiple brands. What that means, again, is if you are an organization who has 6 different schools and 2 of them have different names, you can still run it from the top and have this great emails that go out with kind of similar messaging, but everybody's brand will be at the top and be identified, and you don't have to have more than one database for that. All right, so why do people show up at our doorstep, right? Here's kind of what I figured out in being a director and then being on this side of the world. For one, directors are frustrated, and I put that in shouty capitals because it's the truth. They're frustrated. They're annoyed. There is not a good way for them to follow a parent from the first phone call all the way to the enrollment, to keep her assistant director in loop, to keep her owner off of her back. There's just not a good way to do it. She can hand you a binder. She can hand you Post-its, but inevitably it's going to just drive her crazy. Directors and assistant directors are your front line. They have got so much going on that the last thing that they have time to worry about is the, quote, sales process. They understand it's important. If you're an owner telling your director she's got to do it, she's not ignoring you. She does know it's important, but she has no idea how to deal with the pressure to convert with no time and no resources. And then some of my owners or executives, they'll flat out tell me, look, revenue is not scalable. I don't know how to make it better. I don't know what the problem is. Or I need an exit strategy, and the bank is asking me what my conversion's like, and I have no clue. So that's why people come to us, because they just don't have a great process, and they're just frustrated overall. So the benefits for your schools, hopefully you can figure out where you fall in. Now, I'll be honest with you and tell you that the system started in 2009, and we started to help struggling schools. We noticed that there was a lot of schools out there. If you remember what 2009 looked like, everybody, it was a nightmare. The recession was in full force. Everybody had empty seats all over their buildings, and they needed to figure out what was broken and how to fix it and how to get their revenue back up. So that's where we started. And then we kind of came out of that recession. Those schools started filling up, and they needed to manage their wait list and prioritize those things. So the system, we started developing programs and capabilities to manage wait lists and prioritize people and keep people on the hook. And then from there, we had clients who started opening brand new buildings, and they needed help building a pipeline, staying in touch with those prospective parents. So we've had to adapt the system to meet wherever you fall. You're going to find a solution in this program that will help you either fill your seats, manage that wait list, or build your pipeline so you can open your doors and be nearly full from the get-go. All right, so let's talk about the enrollment funnel so that you know how we get leads. So if you're on my call right now and you were looking for a lead generation company, this is not the system for you. I am not going to go find a lead for you by any stretch of the imagination. They're going to come from one of these outlets, right? You're going to put something on social media or do an AdWord, drop a flyer, put your name out there in a magazine in your town. The leads are going to come into you, and from there, they're going to come into my system. So we call those inquiries or prospects, right? So once they come through that funnel, they make it in. Just be thinking about what it costs to acquire a lead, right? This is not inexpensive. If you're an owner on the call, you can tell me right now, down to the penny, like it costs this much every single minute of every single day. But your directors might not know that. So what does it cost to acquire a lead, right? And once you're a director and you kind of grasp that this is very expensive, that's the reason our owners are telling us every phone call counts, be ready, be prepared. So once they come in the funnel, these are just kind of industry average from what we've pulled for our clients, but let's say 60% of them show up to tour and 40% don't. What I see a lot of clients without CRM struggling with is they are not asking why. They're not getting any data after that phone call or that website lead comes in to say, why didn't you come in? What was it about us? Was it the price? Was it the way you were greeted? That's where a CRM system is helpful. One of the ways is we're going to ask why they ultimately didn't call you back or show up. And then of the ones that do come in, let's go ahead and just say half and half, right? Those numbers skew a little bit year to year with our clients, but it's this year I think it was 52.37 was the average of enroll. And then the others that don't enroll, again, why not? What happened? Where are you going? Are you getting that information right now? So before we jump in, let me kind of define what the sales cycle, and I know sales is a dirty word in our industry, but let's kind of define what that looks like. So a new inquiry, a new lead, to me that's somebody I've never spoken to. So somebody that's coming from the website, or maybe a current parent handed me a post-it that said, hey, this guy just moved in. That's a new inquiry or a new lead to me. Then the second status is contacted or responsive. So I used to say a phone call, but in this day and age, we millennials, we just hate answering the phone. So a couple of emails back and forth, even a text message conversation, just something that means they're responsive to you. Tour scheduled, I do not have to define that for you. I know you get it. Tour completed. Again, some of our parents just start at tour completed. They walk in the door and say, hey, we just want to look around. I don't care that it's 5:57 p.m. on a Friday night. Let's just go ahead and do this. So that's tour completed. If you're one of those schools that needs to prioritize people, you're really full in all the classrooms, we're going to give you an opportunity to call them a wait list and get some good reasoning on that. If you can get them registered right away, they can start any time. You'll consider them registered. And then, of course, enrolled, sitting in your building. At any point in this process, though, people fall out. You can't get them on the phone. They schedule a tour and they don't show up. They complete a tour and then they just go rogue and you never hear back from them. Those are what we call lost opportunities. And in your world right now, those of you who said pen, paper, Post-it, binders, etc., these are the people that are making it to your binders of death. They look organized. They have the years on the side of them. They're probably sitting on your back cabinet right now collecting dust. And we might as well just throw them in the fire, because when, as a director, do you have any time to open that binder up, do the math, and figure out how old little Tommy is today? You just, if you have that kind of time, hats off to you, because I've never had that. But I say for now because situations change, right? So, you know, I was just visiting clients in Alaska, and they have always been busting at the seams because they were the only game in town. And then if you know anything about Alaska, the oil industry is leaving. So now all of a sudden they have tons of empty seats. So situations changed. Their situation changed. They need to go find low-hanging fruit and lost opportunities. People who said your tuition is too expensive, they may get a better job. You need to keep track of them and be able to reach out at any point and bring them back in to this active sales pipeline. All right, so I am going to jump in. I know you guys did not come here to watch a PowerPoint, okay, as much as I love them. Okay, so let's start looking at the system. So I pulled up one of my good friends' websites because I just think it's the cutest thing in the world. I visit it all the time. But I want to explain to you the 3 ways that a prospective parent would get into your system, okay? So one of them is on your website. A lot of you have got a contact us, a schedule a tour. And anytime you've got one of those digital forms out there, whether it be on social media or the website, the parents are going to come to these forms, fill them out, give you some information. What will happen is as soon as they hit send on those forms, the parent will automatically get an email thanking them for their interest, letting them know that you'll call them back. It's got their name at the top and your name at the bottom. That information will automatically come into your child care CRM system, so you do not need to re-enter it, and you'll get a notification. If you've got the app, you get a push notification telling you you've got a pending lead. Otherwise, you'll get an email. The owners, the directors, whoever it makes sense to get will say, hey, you've got somebody that just came into the system. Here's their info. Click here to log in. So you can get to their account right away and make that call. So that's point number 1. And again, anywhere on the web that you can get a form, social media, Google+, we can get you a form and you can track which outlet they came from. Way number 2, for those walk-in tours, if somebody just walks in your building, you can hand over what's called a kiosk form. So it looks a lot like this. It's going to be branded and pretty for you, but instead of handing them that clipboard and pen and paper, you're going to hand them a tablet or direct them to a front computer and say, thanks so much for coming in today. I'm going to get your paperwork together. Do you mind filling this out for me real quick? They'll fill all that information out. The beauty is if they're already in your system, it's going to say, hey, Kathy, this looks like you. Here's what we know about you. Can you just fill in the rest? So that parent doesn't have to start from scratch if they've already called you before. All of that will update their current file in your system. And then you can just walk around the building and do what you need to do, and all of their stuff is just updated automatically in your system, which is beautiful. Obviously, we're going to look at how to enter a phone call lead. That is the one I cannot get my hands on. You will have to do data entry on that. I have not figured out how to tap your phone lines yet. So that's the 3 points of entry. Here is your child care CRM login screen. So like we talked about, it's just a .com. As long as you can get to a browser, you can get logged in. Everybody in your building can have a username and password. We do not charge by seat. You can have as much volume in the system as you want. So if you want to drop a marketing list of 6,000 people in here, by all means, go for it. Let's log in as like a director, kind of somebody who looks at one center. And then I will for sure bring you back up to the top, and we'll look at somebody who manages multiple sites. All right. So I am the director of Lucky Learners Northwoods. I'm going to log in for the morning. This is what I'm going to see. Here's my active opportunity pipeline with all those statuses we talked about, nicely organized. It's no longer in the binder of death. So if I said, you know what, today is waitlist day. I just need to see who's on my wait list. Let me click it. I can go ahead and sort. I'm looking specifically for a 9-month-old, and look, there's one. On the right, you have what we call the widgets. And everybody can have their own widgets. You can move them around, you can collapse them, use what you like, get rid of what you don't. Directors and owners, you might have different kind of views here. Let me just explain them to you quickly. My favorite reports let you quickly drill into whatever reporting capability that you like. You can also schedule reports to run automatically, so sometimes people don't use this very much. But favorite reports, everybody can have their own. You can have as many on there as you want. Dashboards, they are much like reports except they're graphical. So this is an owner kind of thing. Owners love dashboards. Directors, if you're like me, you're like, what am I looking at? No red flags are going to be on these dashboards. They're just going to give you kind of what detail you need to go drill in and look for. Add a new lead. Here's where we start the phone calls, right? Oh, so I'm starting to enter Michelle because I have her on the phone, and the system tells me I might have a duplicate. This might be the same person. So I can just use that lead and follow where or pick up where I left off. Or I can decide it's not the same Michelle Lackey, and I can get her all the way to the status that she's going to. So if I hung up that phone call and she scheduled a tour, I can just start her there and save myself some work. I can also add her right to the wait list. So if you're a school who's busting at the seams and you don't even want to bother with my sales pipeline, I get it. Just go right to the wait list and let those business rules kick off as they will for somebody on the wait list. Tour and meeting schedule lets everybody kind of see what's going on. So I can say it's the 13th, I've got a tour at 2. Here on the 5th, here's where on the tours are, who's giving them. Oh, looks like Chuck and Emily have quite a busy day. These will sync with your Outlook and your Gmail calendars. So you can put these same things over there so you can have, if you want more than one calendar, you're more than welcome to have it. Recently modified leads was a lifesaver when I was a center director because inevitably I would finally get 20 minutes to myself. I'd start doing my work, and then I would get a call for a potty break in the toddler classroom, and I would come back and go, what was I working on? And this was really helpful because I could just pick up where I left off. Or, like I said, we're dealing with millennials. So I would call Randy, leave a message, start working on something else, and then Randy would call me back. And it was like, oh, let me just pull your file up real quick. And I could do that. Classroom openings, again, this is just another one of the widgets to let you help see what's going on when you have openings. It was insanely helpful. We had a team of director, assistant director, curriculum director. Curriculum director did not have very intimate understanding of what was going on in as far as enrollment and admissions, but she closed for us. So she had to understand when she answered the phone what to not overpromise these prospective parents. So this kind of helped her. So she could say, oh, looks like I have a toddler opening, but it's only Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Did you want my director to call you back about that tomorrow? If you have multiple sites, you can also view your sister schools. So if you've got a school that's pretty close to you and you have a full infant room that you want to see if maybe your other locations do, you can just pick one of them. Or you can say, just show me all the openings across the organization. So then you can tell those parents what they can expect, and maybe you can refer them over to their other school. Under your pipeline, you have your task list. So this is going to prioritize for you based on what we call the business rules or the business logic. So if you're an owner on this call or you think you're going to be the database administrator, the first step of implementation is to kind of crack open your sales pipeline or cycle. And I'm going to ask you questions like, all right, Michelle, you just had a tour. What in a perfect world comes next? And if you tell me I want there to be a phone call from my director the day after, I want them to get an email once a week until they make a decision, then I'm just going to have that stuff start automating for you, hit your director's to-do list when it needs to. These tasks will turn red as they're overdue, so you as the owner or director can see kind of what we're falling behind on. The pending leads tab, this is where all of your website leads are going to come in. So in this example, we only have one website form out there, but keep in mind that if you do the social media stuff, it would say source Facebook, source Yelp, source whatever. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. So pretend again, this parent just came into the website. I'm a director. I just need to go ahead and hit the green check mark and bring them into the system. So what's going to happen is it will automatically Wait, who was I bringing in? Jesse Piper. There he is, not Michelle. I confused myself. Okay, so it's going to automatically bring Jesse into the system with that phone call assigned to him, so I need to get it done. I can complete from here, or I can click in if I want to get some more information, which directors, we kind of like to have information before we call. So here's what I know about Jessie. Here's what she put in on my website. I've got mom or dad's information up top. I have her kiddos down here in the middle. Any tasks I need to do in the future. I have a drip campaign. If you don't know what that means, it's just basically if you've ever shopped online and now you're being stalked by Nordstrom, that's the drip campaign. It's information specifically tailored to your likes and your needs and your interests. It's going to go out automatically. So basically, until Jessie answers my phone call, she's going to get little bits of information about Lucky Learners, how awesome we are, with calls to action at the bottom of it to pick up the phone and call me back. These are going to go out automatically, and they're branded. They've got her name at the top. It kind of looks like you sat down and wrote them. In the parents, really quickly, let's look at what you collect on them. So you've got basic contact information on mom or dad. All of this information, if you are using one of our preferred integration management systems, so I can go over the list of that with you too, but if you're using a management system that we integrate with, which again is a big childcare CRM differentiator, because other CRM systems, they don't even know what a management system is. They don't care what ProCare and Childcare Manager are. So we will send this information over there for you so you don't have to re-enter it, which is just a huge time saver. You have custom fields. You might start with these turned off. You've got up to 4 on every parent and every child. Custom fields, you know, you're going to look at the system and say, well, you've already got things like age groups and classrooms and employers. But if there's something different about your school or your organization that you need to be able to report on or send emails to automatically or in a group way, that's a great use for custom fields. So in my example, my owner and I were trying to decide if we were going to offer a sibling discount, but she clearly wasn't going to let me just offer a discount until I could prove to her that I was getting X amount of families in with that number of kids. And I also wanted to automate those emails to parents. So if I could say they have 2 children in the family, all of a sudden they would get an email saying, hey, have you heard about our sibling discounts? The kiddos, much different information. The most important thing I like to point out about the kids is that different than another CRM system, each child follows its own path to enrollment. So for instance, there was plenty of times in my world where, you know, this is a 2-year-old. I have openings in 2s. I can get Dylan in right away. But baby, they're probably going to be looking to start in about 9 months, and currently, like, it's 15 months before I can get an infant in. So that baby's probably going to need to sit on my wait list. But I can enroll Dylan, get all that going, and keep baby in the pipeline on wait list so I can make sure to still email mom and dad, get their paperwork going, and keep all of my conversion numbers really clean. I also used it a lot for summer camp. So if I found out that there was an older sibling in the family, I would put that sibling in and start dripping summer camp information to mom and dad. In your kiddos, less contact information, we don't need that here. More things like their date of birth, the day they want to start, which is just crucial for you guys because you will not know how to prioritize your own pipeline if you don't know when they wanted to start. I tell my directors that all the time. You know, it's not just for their benefits for them to tell you, it's for you. If somebody says they want to start January 9th and it's now March and you haven't heard from them, guess what, guys? Like, that's a lost stop. We can just move on. Stop chasing them. But also, I think it helps you figure out the conversation you need to have. If somebody wants to start 10 months from now, that's a logical, fact-based parent. If you've got a parent who needs to start in the next couple weeks, something has changed in their life, they are emotional, you have to nurture them a lot differently. So I think it's really helpful. It lets you figure out who are your top 10 and how you need to talk to them. So that's your start date. Your date of birth, you can do the exact date of birth. You can also estimate this thing. So when I would get those phone calls and they said, I have a 2-year-old we want to start next month, it was like, oh, crap, I did not get a birthday. But I could just do -2 years, or they want to start sometime next month. And it would just fill those in for me, save me a little bit of time. And then when I found out the exact date of birth, I could go back and change it. It's also going to assign an age group. So if for some reason the Piper family just doesn't enroll, they drop off the face of the earth, or they flat out tell you, like, your rates are way too expensive for me, and then 2 years from now you want to send out an email about the fact that you have a universal pre-K or whatever, that's a much less highly government subsidized program, maybe that person's a perfect fit. Awesome. Dylan's going to have aged into the 4-year-old group for you, so you don't have to go back and do the math like you're doing with your binders of death. I love calling them that, binders of death. Okay, so then you've got 4 custom fields again on the kiddos. Again, these are not required. You can start with them on or off. Custom needs and interests. This is a good comment section to go ahead and put anything you need on Dylan. You've got your schedule information. So if it's a full-time kid, you just hit select all. If it's a part-time student, you can pick their schedule. What you're seeing happen on the right here is it's going to calculate the FTEs, or the full-time equivalency, and then the revenue. So based on the schedule and how they're going to age, here's what you're looking to see in the first year if they stay with you. And also based on your rates, if this child stays with you until they're too old to attend, here's what's on the table. Owners on the call, that is an option you can turn on or turn off at center level. If you're like my owner, she loved me to see that revenue. Some owners really don't want directors worrying about that. You can just hide the revenue to them. Current situation, prior experience lets you track competitors. If you are on this call and you do not have a competitor, I need to know exactly where you are because I'm coming to open a child care center tomorrow. But most of you are saturated. That's just the market we live in now. This will help you track who you're winning from, who you're losing to. I see a lot of people put a question on their kiosk form that says, has your child ever been enrolled in school before? And it's just a field that parents can fill out because obviously you don't want to broadcast, here's the other 14 in the neighborhood. But I found anyway in my market, the parents were more likely to tell that kiosk or that tablet information than they ever were going to tell me, because for some reason it probably, in their world, it was kind of more anonymous, but whatever. I was getting that information. And you know, if you're a center level director or an owner, there's going to be certain schools that you're going to see and you know exactly how to tour. You might get one that you're like, oh, that's a huge school that has bad turnover. I know exactly what to talk about. Or, geez, that really is one of my competitors in the neighborhood. I'm going to really need to step up my game here because maybe there's not a ton of difference and our prices are actually more expensive. All right. So that's what you can build on these kids, again, and these parents. If you notice, there's not that many required fields in there, so it's not like you can't use the system if you don't know, where they came from. It's just all to help you build relationships and know what to talk about. Your day-to-day of the system really is just on that front page, going down those tasks, and again, remember, you can complete them from there, but you're just going to find your green check marks and complete them. And it took me all of 15 minutes a day. So find my tasks, hit complete, and tell my CRM system what I did. If I leave a message here, all of those emails about how awesome I am, those will just continue to go off with calls to action, and hopefully she calls me back. I'm going to take you through the whole process, and I know this is usually days or weeks, but we don't have that much time, unfortunately. So let's say I called and spoke with her, and I got her on the phone the first time. Here's any description of my phone call so I can get to it very quickly. And I'm going to go ahead and add my follow-up right now because I know she wants to tour. So we'll put her down for a tour. So she is bringing and then over here, I've got my tour and meeting calendar so I don't overbook. So I've got one at 8. Let's go ahead and schedule her at 10. And I can also assign it. So if you're in one of those worlds where you've got an office manager taking all the phone calls and doing your data entry, but directors are responsible for tours, all you need to do is just assign it to the right person. That person will get an email letting them know they've got a task coming up. And the other thing that will happen is in the email to the parents, it'll have the tour guide's name in it so that she's not caught off guard if she says, well, I talked to Mary and now Jessica's showing me around. So it'll just make them feel like they can trust you more because it said your tour with Jessica. So again, when you hit save on something like a tour task, the parent is going to automatically get a confirmation email with the date, the time, an add to calendar button, a link to your map if you want. They're going to get that automatically within minutes. But this is a tour that's a little far off, so maybe I want to send an email out, I don't know, 2 days ahead of time, just reminding you of your visit. Call us if you need to make any changes. So looking forward to seeing you. Can also do a text message. Let's text her 90 minutes before her visit. And yourself. I used to send myself a text message 10 minutes before every one of my tours because inevitably there was a macaroni and cheese crisis of 2014 happening as soon as that person walked in the door. And I hated getting that call. Emily, your tour is up front. I was like, okay, now I'm panicked. I'm covered in macaroni and cheese. And I have to go remind myself how much I love this place. So instead, I just gave myself a 10-minute reminder. So no matter what crisis in the building I was dealing with, I could say, you know what? This is going to be here when I get back. I need to go get up front, get ready for this parent. And then I would just hit save. So just because you hit the green check mark and you told the system what you did, some things are just going to start automatically happening for you and taking them off of your to-do list. So for one, these kiddo statuses are going to automatically update. So if you remember that colorful bar graph, they're just going to jump from the first line now to the third. So they're just moving themselves down the process. You have the task you just set up. But if you notice, those emails that we said were going to go out once a week to tell her how awesome we are will just automatically cancel themselves. They are gone. She will not see them. Now she's going to get confirmation emails, confirmation reminders. You can always edit these on the fly, right? So if you want to put something special in there for her, you can always do that. It doesn't have to be a static email, but it will go out automatically for you. Before the tour, I like to show this trick. All right, so you're back on your home screen. It's 2 days later. It's time for the tour. You can always just come up to the search bar. You can search by phone number. If you've got a caller ID, it'll pull somebody's account up. You can search by email. So I would just pull up her information right before her tour. I could either print it and walk around with it if I wanted to, but most of the time I would just come down to her activity section and figure out what we've done here. She's gotten a couple emails. Here's our conversation my assistant director had with her, and then I would just pick up where we left off. The other thing is if you notice these emails say delivered, every email that goes out of the system is tracked and tagged. So for instance, I can tell that this successfully made it to Michelle's inbox, but she has not opened it yet. If she opens it, it will say open. If she clicks a link, it will say click, unsubscribe, bounce, things like that. And the parent has no idea that is happening on the other side. So they're not getting a read receipt or anything like that. So for instance, if I was really looking at this person, I would say, they're not really opening email. So I'm not going to send anything important or any calls to action there. I might try to just call her or text her. But they're time-stamped for you. So like I would see a few that said delivered at a certain time of day, and then I would send one at like 4:53 p.m. and it would say opened. And if that was somebody I was really trying to go after, I would say, well, they opened one at 4:53, so maybe the end of the day is the best time to try to call them, because now I know when they're just staring at their phones. So same concept here for the tour. Either she shows up or she doesn't. If she does not show up, she's going to automatically get an email that says, hey, Jessie, we're so sorry we missed you. We would love to have you back at Lucky Learners. Here's a couple of options for you, and your director is going to get a couple of tasks to call back and try to reschedule. If she does show up, I can put any notes in here. Loved the playgrounds, wants to start next month sometime. So here's my notes I need to do, and I just hit save. And when you hit save on a tour task, now you're going to get things like call her to follow up, send the thank you card for visiting. She's going to get a thank you for visiting email. And again, I'm kind of a stickler for customization, so I just want to open my template up. It's got everything I need in here, but I want to say, hey, loved seeing her at the sand and water table. Just personalize it a little bit. I can also put documentation or attachments on here. I can CC any of my other friends at the center. So if I'm going to be out when it's time for her to come back in, I can say I'm copying my assistant director who will be here for you to receive your registration documents. And then just hit save and it'll still go off as usual. You can always send a manual email out. If you're like me and you get hyper excited about seeing if people are opening things. So you just go to your template library, pick the one you want to send, Same concept, attach anything. You can also delay your deliveries by 15 minutes, days, hours, whatever you'd like, and send it off. Same with text messages. I don't encourage bombarding people by any stretch of the imagination, but before I made somebody a lost opportunity, I always sent one text out, right? I wasn't annoying them. They did give me their cell phone number. So, hey, I've been trying to reach you. Just want to make sure you don't have any questions. It's got your signature at the bottom of it because it comes from a number that they can't respond to. So we're not putting your personal cell phone in there. But I always just thought, you know, those of you who are on this call, you be honest with me. How many text messages do you flat out ignore? You open text messages is not just to get the notification off your phone because there's no other way to do it. So I just thought if I text this parent and I don't hear back, that's truly a lost stop. But a lot of times the text would spur somebody to say, you know what, so sorry, it's been crazy busy around here, I am not ignoring you. All right, so when you get to the end of the journey, you have a few options. So let's kind of talk through your wait list. So if you're busting at the seams, your problem right now is that you don't really have a great way to prioritize it. This is a system that's going to solve that. So now you can kind of put reasons, priorities, types, and all of these drop-downs in the system. I call them pick lists. Those are all defined by you. So we've got a good place for you to start, but you can always customize them. So let's say in this case, I'm going to put baby on the wait list, but I have a full application for her. She's going on the wait list because right now I just don't have the space in our infant room. But as far as priority goes, she's priority number 1 because Big Sister is enrolled right now. And I went ahead and took a $150 registration fee. I can send it to my management system right here. It'll still say in my CRM, so I can still manage it. But if you take money, usually you need to send it over there. Your other status, well, actually, let's move her. All right, so we put baby on our wait list, but I can't enroll Dylan right now. So I'll just move Dylan to registered. I'm going to get this pop-up that says, do you want to send me to your management system? If everything looks good and you have no edits you need to make, you just hit yes, and everything you've had entered goes automatically over to the management system, so you do not have to redo the work. It's just like the skies part and the angels sing. If you want to go make some changes, like you need to update Dylan's start date or date of birth, or there's more notes you want to put in, you just hit no, and you can always do it later. Your other status is what we call lost opportunity, remember? So this is not scary. You can always bring a lost opportunity right back into the pipeline, and their file is perfectly intact. But a lost opportunity just lets you clean things up and also go back to the drawing board with some real information. So why am I losing people? And a lot of people will just say, like, oh, it's prices. Well, okay, but was there anything else besides price that really drove them to not make you their choice? So you're not going to be able to track that. You're going to be able to put the reasons in here. The parent's going to get a survey email that says, thanks so much for your interest in Lucky Learners. We want to make sure that we're the best in the community. Can you take just a second to give us some info? So they'll fill that out. Those responses can come back to whomever you like. I always think it works really much better if it comes from the owner or somebody up top and then is delivered back to the owner, because a lot of times parents, you know, they don't know that they're never going to need you again, and they're certainly not going to tell a director who they just toured with, like, your 2-year-old classroom smelled really bad. So they won't say that. But if it comes from somebody that they didn't have interaction with, people are more likely to fill surveys out. So those are your lost opportunity reasons, and you can always add to these or take some away if they don't make any sense to you. All right. So with that, that is kind of the director's day-to-day, and I realized we just went really fast, and I took you through something that takes 3 or 4 weeks sometimes in just 30 minutes. So I get that. Really easy. Again, I spent maybe 15 minutes a day in here. I didn't spend a ton of time, so nothing crazy. Let's look at what an owner would see, and this being like an owner of multiple sites. So in this particular demo database, I think I have 8 schools. So if you are a multi-site owner, just know that basically what you're looking at is just the pipeline got bigger. So now instead of seeing just the pipeline for Northwoods, which is one location, you're looking at the pipeline for the whole org. And you can always work from the top, or you can click into specific regions or centers, whatever you want to do. Over in your marketing tab, this is where all of the email templates are housed. So if you build something up at corporate level, you can decide which centers can see it. All of my centers, just this center. You can do HTML, you can do regular text. It's just you've got a full email editor in there. There's embedded images, embedded videos, which is super cool because you can have videos just play right in your email, which I think is so fun. And I also hate when it launches to those providers that launch to YouTube, because if you've ever noticed, like if you put, yours is tagged Childcare Dallas, the next video that's recommended is another childcare center in Dallas. It drives me insane. So don't do that. You also have, if you've ever heard of Constant Contact or MailChimp or anything like that, you have that built into your system. So you can kind of get rid of those processes too. But it allows you to segment a lot deeper down into these parents' files, because in Constant Contact or MailChimp, you can first name, last name, email address, but you can't really segment much further than that unless you have data on them. But in CRM, we know everything about these families because you've told us. So let's say, okay, I'm going to use one of my examples. So I had a full infant-toddler classroom for as long as I can remember in my center. It was beautiful. And then one day I had triplets, that's three toddlers withdraw in the same day. And I was like, this is no bueno. Now I got to go find 3 18-month-olds before Friday, before my owner figures this out. That's bad. So I just did toddler, law stop. All right, so I came and said, all right, CRM, let me get anybody who hasn't made a decision yet. Yeah, that's right. And I just need the 1-year-olds. Okay, I just need the ones. I don't need 2-year-olds because I'm still full, and I certainly don't want infants to show up because that's not going to be good. So just give me the 1-year-olds. And you know what? Actually, it is just the 18 to 24 class. I don't have room in the 12 to 18. So let's do minus 18 months, minus 24 months. So there's everybody that was born, 18 and 24-month-olds right there. Bam, done. I could pick genders out, maybe I just want some cute toddler girls, which I think is hysterical. You can do birth month if you want to send out happy birthday emails. You've got your lost opportunity reasons, so I want to specifically get people who said there was no space, because people who said ratios were an issue, that's going to be a problem. I'm adding children. And people who said that my tuition was expensive, well, that's not gone anywhere, so let's get just my no space kids. And then I'm going to hit save. And then what it's going to do is just look through my database, populate everybody that meets that criteria, and then I can decide what I want to do. So for instance, here's my not born yet kids, right? So here's my pregnant moms. Now when things change, for instance, when Danielle is born, she's automatically coming out of this list. And if I put a pregnant mom in tomorrow, she automatically jumps into it. So I don't have to go back and recreate things. I can take people out of it if I want, maybe the Carmichael family's cuckoo cuckoo. So I just take them out, no big deal. Hit next, and now I can decide what I want to do. Send an email to these people, send a mass text message. I had my currently enrolled people in here all the time. Don't forget picture days tomorrow, text message about delay in weather. So then I can just pick my template out. I can also delay the delivery. And I can change who the reply to is going to. So maybe I'm a director, but I want all the responses to go back to my front desk. I just change the reply to email. Super easy to send big communication out. Your report section, by far, biggest, baddest, beefiest piece. And I will not go through every single report with you. I will tell you that during implementation, the first 3 weeks, the goal is to get good data in, so that in a couple weeks we can go back and start training you on reports on how to pull data out. These can automatically run for you, like I talked about. We talked about scheduling, but you can always run them on the fly too. So as a director, my favorite report was the current opportunities report. Let me just pull up one site. You can filter them down anywhere here if you just wanted to see current infants or current twos, but I literally just came in every morning and hit view. And what this was doing for me was basically taking that cool, colorful, beautiful bar graph on the front page and just cracking it open. So I could see who was inside of it, what status they were sitting at, and I was particularly concerned with this column right here, next contact. So if I see a date here, that means I'm good to go. I have not forgotten these people. There is a task on them. I will get back to them in the time the task tells me to. But if I scroll down and I see these holes, that means there's a problem. Somebody has gotten into the system. You know, Nancy Pryor is in the contact status. So we've had a conversation, and somehow she has no follow-up assigned to her. So I'm just going to run this every day, find the holes, click into them, and decide what I need to do here. What did we forget to add? So that's kind of your keep people from slipping through the cracks report, is what I call it. Other director favorites, you've got the scheduled tasks. So I know if you're sitting on this call, you're going to say, I cannot sit in front of a computer all day. You do not have to. Just run your tasks for today. And then, oh, well, you only have one. But if you had more, you could just print it out, leave it on your desk wherever you were, take notes on it, come back, put your notes in later. Fine by me. But at least you know what's on your plate for the day. You can also go on vacation, directors. It's a beautiful thing, and you can take a day off. So let's say I've been out for 7 days, but I want to see all of the, let's say, tour completed. Let me see all of our completed tours before I go talk to my assistant director. Here's all the tours that were completed while I was gone with the descriptions. I can see if I have any red flags. And instead of saying, hey, tell me about all the tours, I can say, tell me how this one went, because I only know that he brought his wife. Owners go crazy for things like statistical reports. So you've got conversion success in here. Conversion success basically lets you see whichever piece of the pipeline you're most interested in. So if you want the whole thing, new lead to lost op, you got it. If you say, Emily, we've done a really big push on closing the tour and asking for the enrollment, so I just want to see tour completed going forward, then you would just say, let me see from tour completed forward. What does that look like? Let's look at the whole pipeline. You can do this off of inquiry type if you want. So those of you who are redoing your website, if you want to see how that, benchmark it today and see how the conversion on that improves. Or those of you who do a phone call initiative, like we're going to train on phone and do a script and all that stuff. Same with lead sources. Age group, that's a fun one to do. And you can run this on numbers, percentages, FTEs. Let's just do it numbers and percentages. All right, so here's my whole organization, right? And some of my pretend databases don't have anything in them. But let's just say across the organization, we had 112 brand new people come in that time frame. I got 77% on the phone, 51% scheduled, and kind of here's where we've all bounced. So I could look at this and say, where is my leaky bucket? What is going on? Why would I have so many people schedule and then so low? Do I have some no-shows happening on the tours here? You also have, like I said, period comparisons let you see two things right next to each other. So let me see Q1 2015 versus Q1 2016. Trend tracking, how are things looking over weeks, quarters, months, or years? Lots of statistical reports. Conversion timing's fun. Those of you who say, like, I think it takes a couple weeks, well, this is the one that's going to tell you, like, it's not a couple weeks, it's actually 3 weeks and 2 days it takes on average. Marketing. I think the favorite in here is probably source of leads. So a lot of people will just run this. I'm going to pick one school because it's a lot of information, but hang on. All right, so a lot of people will just, if you don't have a CRM, this is the number that you guys are working with right now. I go to all of these meetings and I will hear owners go, we got 45 from Facebook, 28 from a flyer, and then they'll just go like, drop more at Facebook, drop more on the flyer. But they never ask the second half of the question, which is like, okay, of the 28 that you got from that flyer, where are they now? They don't know, and they never answer it. So I think knowing this number is good, but it's certainly not the rest of the question. So what I really like people to do is run it by status. So you've got the same sources. You've got the flyer over here. But really, then you can go down through your pipeline and say, okay, of those 28, I have nobody enrolled. I actually have 9 lost opportunities. So how much work did my director do following up with 28 people who inevitably did not convert? Do not drop that flyer again. It was a good lead generator, but it's not a good lead converter. You need to go find your lead converter and do that again. Administrative, this is kind of where the owners live. You've got things like specific staff tour results. So I was able to run this report and figure out, like, we had a rock star curriculum director who was closing like 100% of all the tours she did, but she never did a lot of them because she was curriculum director. We quickly changed her role because she was a fantastic salesperson. Staff usage. This is kind of the report card. Again, you're going to need to drill in to get some detail. But if you want a really quick overview of the health of your school, for instance, like how many leads have a next contact task? Most people want that at 100%. I want 100% of people inquiring to have a next contact. And then of those contact tasks, I want nothing to be overdue. So here's all the tasks that are overdue. Here's all my kiddos with a start date, how many are past their start date. Leads with an unknown lead source, again, most people want that at 0%, so you know where to drop your dollars. And then these ratios, so ratio of a task added and ratio of events added. Really what that is, on just very quickly, is when you guys say we want so many touches before we make somebody a lost opportunity. This is where you're going to figure out if you're getting anywhere near that. So this, for example, says we just over 5.5 times do we contact a family before we make them lost stop. So if we want to hit 7 touches, we need to add something else. We need another email in there, and a text message, a phone call. So that's what that number is for you. All right, so that is kind of the 10,000-foot view. I know I'm like 6 minutes. Do I have? Let me just quickly go over what implementation of this looks like for you. So the first step of training is usually with the owner or the database administrator, and we're going to go over the boring stuff, right? We're going to make sure the system looks like you. It has your logo in it. All of the statuses are named the way you like. All of those drop-downs are customized for you. I certainly don't need to go through every one of them, but if you know off the top of your head, we have a specific lead source we need to track, then we need to add that. The other thing we're going to do is look at the business rules, and the business rules are the heartbeat of your system. It's out of the box ready with best practices. I have people who've been on this thing since 2009 that have never changed a business rule. But we want to make sure we match your processes the best we can. So for instance, we're going to go through kind of a flow chart with you and say, when you have a brand new lead in, what do you want to happen? And if we need to add something, we'll add it. If we need to take something away, we'll do that. So that's your first step. After we get the database built exactly the way you want it as the owner or the administrator, then I'm going to get with your assistant directors, your directors, and give them an hour each to do user training, where I basically hand the mouse over to them. We put in a fake lead. We walk them through the pretend process. We do it a few times until they're comfortable. We give them a week to do that. A week later, we come back and do just a follow-up. It's usually quicker. But we're going to hold their hand through this. And it takes about, depending on how technology savvy your directors and assistant directors are, it takes about 2-3 weeks for them to really be comfortably dangerous. And so then we'll just do kind of check-ins with them every week for about 6 weeks, 9 weeks. Usually on week 5 or 6, it's a good time to come back with owners and start training on reports so you can pull some data out of this thing. But if at any point in your career with us you need to get a hold of us or ask a question, you've got a few resources. So you can hit the help button and do things like there's kind of a Google search in there. So I remember Emily said something about sending a big text message out. How do I do that? Search text, you'll see videos, you'll see documentation. You can also submit a ticket. A ticket is more technical, right? So like, hey, there's something weird going on, and I think an IT person needs to look at it. We have to acknowledge those in 15 minutes, and it goes right to our develop and programming team. The other one that I love, if you haven't noticed, I really like to talk on a good chatter, is the chat feature. So basically what you'll just do is say, hey, help me. It'll go to one of our support reps, so sometimes you'll see my face on it. But what I really like about this is that we can see where you're at in the system. So if you say, like, Emily, I need help with text messages, I'll say, oh, Mary, you're in the wrong tab. Let's go to the right tab, and we'll fix the problem right then and there. So just a lot of ways to get on the horn with us, a lot of ways to get back in touch. The other thing from my perspective, I'll tell you as a salesperson, I wish I could just sell you the system like as a flat fee. They won't let me do it. It's a month-to-month subscription. And what that means for you is it's really a benefit for you, is it means that I have to keep you happy every single 30 days. So if you've ever bought a management system and they make you sign a $3,000 check and then you can't get them back on the phone, that doesn't happen for us. Like, if you're not happy in 30 days, you can just cancel and walk away, and then I'm in trouble. I got to go find another one of you. So your month-to-month subscription really just means that you've got a really cool support team that has to take really good care of you, and we really like to do it. So with that, I have 3 minutes left. If you've got any questions, throw them into the comments and question spot. If you don't, let me throw my contact information up there. There's my email and my cell phone number. Feel free to call me. I am going to jump on a meeting at 1 o'clock, so if you call me right away, it's because I'm on another meeting. You can always email me. But if you want to kind of get started and figure out what the next steps are, I'm happy to walk you through that. I'll be available in about an hour. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have a question, stay on the line. I'm happy to answer it. If not, you guys have a great day. Go get back to your awesome centers, and we will talk to you soon.